acquisition and retention models will change drastically year from year. I don't think it's ever going to be a case of setting a strategy and sticking with it. We have to be always looking ahead.
Hi everybody, for today's episode of Retention Zone, the video podcast focused on subscriber monetization and retention, is a fellow, I would say, product person in James Walmsley from Todd Bean Media Group. Hi, James.
Hi, Carlo. How are you?
Can I call you a product person?
Yeah, products, I guess. Yeah, product technology. In the corner, something like that.
at least to set expectation for the audience that we have that angle today. So I would say quickly, tell me about James and what you're doing at Todd Bean. And also, where are you based? Which is a good question, I think.
Sure. James Walmsley. I work currently in Todd, which is the newest, addition to the Bean Media Group. I think many people are familiar with Bean. They have a global footprint of broadcasters and other media businesses. So quite a powerhouse based out of Doha in Qatar. I live here during the week at the moment. Actually live with my family in Dubai during the weekends, but I've been in the region about 10 years. I've been in Todd a couple of years nearly. Joined in the excitement and run up to the World Cup, which was our launch year as well for Todd. So although I wasn't in right at the beginning, I guess I inherited quite an early stage product, and we're going through in the year, I guess 1 year on from that tournament. We are sort of stepping into this year in quite a different spot, but we've got a huge calendar. I guess we'll talk about that. We're obviously Bean is pedigree is sports, for those who maybe aren't as familiar. Within the Middle East and North Africa region, we hold pretty much, I would say, anything that is super popular, from the Premier League through to the local tournaments. We're running the AFC here in Qatar at the moment, which is exciting. We've got the AFCON Cup also simultaneously. Yes. So lots going on. And this year with Euros and Olympics and everything that's coming to the world of sports, I think, World Cup may have been a particularly special time for Qatar, and incredibly a lot of pressure for us. But this year, in terms of the schedule, is pretty crazy. So
you started not with what we can call a soft launch, right?
No, I don't know if there's any sort of real soft launch of Todd. It was launched in early 2021. Early 2022, I should say. It was built in 2021. So it launched under huge time pressure. And in the year that I entered the business, with roughly July, sort of halfway through that year, it was already picking up in the run up to the World Cup. I mean, there was already the Premier League season and the Champions League and all these things, and obviously in October, November, and finally into December, we were already having to operate at 110% all the way through. So I'd say 210% probably for most of that period.
And just to to give a bit of an idea of the region and how streaming media is monetized, can you a bit describe quickly the scenario for those that are not so well informed on the MENA region?
Well, there's a few. The global players have entered, but in terms of the regional players that are here, there's a few particularly strong players. We have ourselves. Bean has been around for many years and has always been an incredibly prime supplier of sports content specifically. We have OSN, which is another broadcaster based out of Dubai. They've gone through a few evolutions, but are known to be quite strong in entertainment series. They have strong partnerships with HBO, so they have their strong niche there. And then you have NBC and their OTT provider Shahid. born more from an advertising-based model, but have increasingly moved now into premium content through Shahid VIP, and have taken on sports content as well. Saudi Premier League, obviously incredibly important to the Saudi territory, and they have run the F1 in previous years, so they've equally entered that market. So there's a number of big players. I should also mention Stars Play is a very interesting case. Started as probably the first pure OTT play to be born within the region. They have been very successful. They're now been sort of, I guess, partially acquired by Abu Dhabi investments, and they have also made strong inroads into sports, things like cricket. They've picked up very niche, or not so niche maybe, but they've picked up rights that have maybe been missed by other suppliers. Things like the rugby, which are maybe not as popular on a regional scale as other sports like the Premier League, but within specific target demographics within this region, because it's so expat heavy. They've been very successful at promoting those and acquiring with them. So it's quite a dynamic region. All have slightly different models, obviously from the advertising supported through to the super premium, which is sort of where we're positioned at the moment, and sort of everything in between. So I don't think there's one answer yet, and I guess everyone is kind of experimenting with different ways. We're all going through, as I guess the world is really in sort of transition period from maybe the last 10 years into the sort of future of streaming.
And in terms of adoption, streaming is heavily adopted, or compared to traditional broadcast, whatever
it is
distribution method?
Yeah, so it is rapidly growing. I mean, the MENA region, I mean, there are other parts of the world where this would be true, but it is a huge territory, right? From all the way from sort of Senegal on the west coast of Africa through to Egypt. You've got the Gulf regions. You've got very small, highly developed countries like the UAE and Qatar, through to huge countries with which are sort of partly very developed, like Saudi Arabia, but have otherwise very vast territories which are difficult to serve through either mobile internet or fiber and broadband, as the expectations maybe in the West. So satellite definitely still very strong here, and definitely very necessary to reach that audience, but streaming is growing rapidly. 5G has brought huge opportunity. It is faster to roll out than fiber, cheaper, I'd imagine, for many of the operators. And so we're expecting the sort of coming decade to be, for the Middle East, incredibly strong for streaming, for streaming services and sort of ancillary businesses around that.
I think in terms of monetization models, have you seen this rush to AVOD compared to SVOD, or too fast? Or it's more, as you say, everybody's experimenting?
So there was already through Shahid, who I kind of led the way really in the sort of ad-supported model. So I think there was already a sort of very strong base within that supported model, free-to-air model. Obviously, not every territory in this region, apart from the diversity in sort of broadband availability and others, there's a huge demographic, huge differences in the sort of wealth and expenditure income within those countries, and things like exchange rates and different currencies make a big impact as well. So I think advertising and free-to-access content has always had a very strong place here. But moving up the chain, there is such huge interest in content and such huge demand for content. There is a desire to and a willingness to pay for that content as well. So we are coming, I guess, from the other end of the spectrum. but we are certainly looking at it. I mean, we have other businesses around the globe that have done more in this space, and we are watching carefully how they've succeeded in America, for instance, or in Asia and Pacific. We haven't taken the step ourselves yet. It's certainly something we want to do, but we want to do it carefully. I mean, there's a real balance, I think, and we don't, because our product, and especially being around sports, doesn't always lend itself entirely to an AVOD model. It's not something we're going to force. Whereas we know that there are other vendors. So my previous company, we had a more mixed approach, right? There was more of an aggregator approach. So we looked for the premium rights, but I know they're looking to sort of supplement that with AVOD. So I don't think there's an answer. I don't think it will necessarily be that black or white here. But something that's great about the Middle East is as we're sort of rapidly growing and developing, we've had the opportunity to sort of watch the rest of the world, what they've struggled with, what they haven't, what this has meant for consumers, how consumers have responded. It's not always good. I mean, we see certain territories pulling out of advert or massive backlash when there are announcements around AVOD coming in. We don't want to expose ourselves to that. But I do think it's a powerful tool in even acquisition and using it in a way that's maybe not your long-term strategy, but is as a way to get people into your service, into your product, exposed to your content. I think there's definitely...
So basically, your growth strategy, if I put it in a very trivial way, is acquire more and churn less, correct?
Yeah, it's quite traditional in that case. Yeah, I think coming up in... so I think that is true. I think what's within that kind of funnel, how can you change how you acquire? So yes, acquire more, but how do you get people into the funnel? Traditionally, that's been advertising, above the line, below the line, all these kind of campaigns. Then it was social media. I think there's some great examples, and we've watched closely sports like the F1, who've taken a sort of acquisition funnel, starting with very short form content on like a TikTok or YouTube Shorts, that kind of thing. So free content there, can be advertised, supported. Get people into the content, driving them into your maybe mid-length content, your YouTube. Maybe you have highlight reels, maybe you have certain shows that are on there, which lead people into your long-form content. I think that's quite powerful. So you're staying within that kind of, yes, we need to acquire. We are a paid service. We're not going to give away, or we're unable to give away our premium rights for free. But how do we adapt the funnel to still embrace the kind of desire for short form, for free, for easily accessible sort of bite-sized content that everyone expects, but also the younger generation coming through, who are our next generation of subscribers, will respond to. So I think it's more about playing within that, and I look forward over the next sort of months and years to really refining that part. Alongside our traditional
and without obviously sharing whatever data you can share or even sentiment you can share, how is churn like a top of the mind issue for you at the moment? Are you more worried about finding new customers, or I know you have to do both, but I mean, in terms of priority?
Well, so churn is, so we're in January, right? And obviously, although in the scale of the business, you should treat every month the same, and it's all about moving towards this goal. Obviously, in January, our targets are set. A customer acquired or a customer retained in January is worth 12 acquired or retained in December. So, of course, these are things that we're sort of very focused on. We have maybe a slightly different position, because we are very seasonal. With sports, it's every year is different. Or maybe not every year, but pretty much every year has a very different pattern to it. We are so the World Cup, obviously we acquired a lot of customers. They were customers from everywhere. Everyone's interested in the World Cup. So to be honest, acquisition is quite easy under those conditions. We have a massive addressable base, and we have a product that is suitable for everyone. This year is very different. We have AFC, very strong in this region. So the Gulf part of our sort of reach. We have AFCON, very strong in our North Africa countries. They have very different acquisition models. They have very different expendable income, things like this we have to be sensitive to. And all of those customers that we acquire in January, we've somehow got to find a way to fit them into Olympics, which is, again, a very different, maybe more similar to World Cup in terms of
broad threat of reach.
Yes, but largely more available free to air in a lot of ways. So our acquisition and retention models will change drastically year from year. I don't think it's ever going to be a case of setting a strategy and sticking with it. We have to be always looking ahead, and we have to be quite accepting that there's maybe difficult times that we can't necessarily address, but we have to be very much capitalizing on the good times and working out ways of converting those into longer term subscribers, transitioning people into the next league we believe they're interested in, or bridging that gap with strong entertainment and original content, which is something we're also involved in, and something we've been really excited to put out there over the last 2 years.
Absolutely. So what you're depicting is a scenario of extreme sophistication, because there are so different and moving. So it's not like, okay, this year is like that. It's the NFL. We have the Super Bowl, we have the draft, et cetera, et cetera. So clearly, you also need an approach in terms of product, because we basically have talked until now about marketing and content, but not about product. So what obviously product, even in a broader sense, normally become important the moment someone enters the product, right? So in pure acquisition, it's more the feature that you have as a promise that is important. But so what is the role of product in all of this, especially in your case, which is extremely, I would say, sophisticated and complex through time?
So the products that we have in market, I mean, as with the expectation of streaming has changed, I think, for the better over the last sort of 5-10 years. So as always, a reliable product that works day in day out, especially with sports. You cannot have a product that is up and down. Now, obviously, we like every company, we have issues from time to time, and resolving those and fixing those is a priority. What we are moving towards now, in I guess our second year, we're under quite a big overhaul in how we want to present our product and our brand and the features around it. I can't obviously share a huge amount of that.
No, sure.
It will be coming out through this year and into next. But we're very much focused on, and if we're relating it to retention and churn, yes, we have, I think, a pretty well-performing acquisitions team and acquisitions funnel. We've got some good tools in place that help us through that. We are now very focused, especially in Q1 of this year, removing some of the frustrations from customers. So if we forget about sort of a churn as something that happens when a customer cancels, a customer checks out for a number of reasons throughout their subscription, and minimizing those reasons, whether it's obviously number one, issues in using the product, sort of smaller frustrations, which we've tried to tackle, like the application maybe signing you out when you don't want to be signed out, or running out of devices and not easily being able to change a device. So these little things, like smaller frustrations, and removing, I guess, the blockers between people.
I'm a customer of 19 services, so imagine.
So and everyone has a different product. I know, so there's no one solution, but what's common is when people come to the service, you need it to work, and you need it to work how you expect. And there's a high bar, I think, set by not only our regional competitors, but on a global level. That side. So that's something we're very focused on in, I guess, the very short term. And then moving on, we want to really double down on some of the sports and leagues. What we've found is that even from the league side, because forgetting the companies broadcasting and distributing these rights, there's huge competition within the leagues themselves. There's a lot of innovation going in within the Premier League, within Bundesliga, within the Olympics. And I've been lucky to start seeing some of the presentations from these tournaments, competitions, and producers. And they're starting to produce a huge amount of really exciting content. Now, not exciting for everyone, but I don't want to leave anything on the table. So you might be appealing very much to the sports enthusiast, and these leagues are producing huge amounts of stats and data that you can supplement your sports with. Some companies around the world have already been very good at this, but I think beIN is in a unique position where we have so many leagues across so many different sports. Finding a way to present all of that without confusing or watering down, or
you need a common language. You need a common language, right?
Is a challenge. It's one we're addressing head on. I think we've got some great ideas. It's not something we'll do all at once, but I don't want to leave any content on the table, because that's something we can really push. And we've tried it. For those who may have subscribed to Todd or are familiar, we've experimented with some of the unique channels, sort of augmented reality channels that are produced by the leagues. They provide kind of for the Women's World Cup, for instance, which was a huge success for us, and I think globally took on a life of its own, which was great to see. We had one of the things we found is our fans are very familiar with the big names in men's football. Women's football, not so much, even though the tournament was hugely enjoyed. So our augmented reality streams, which had their names appearing over players as they move around, and some of the stats, they were incredibly popular. They're things that aren't necessarily to a sort of football enthusiast necessary or wanted in men's football, because everyone's familiar. But when you bring a new league along, they actually are they really add a lot to the experience. So we're working really hard to take all of these extra pieces of content, obviously on the technology side, build a platform that can scale and capitalize on these as they come up without extra work and extra cash in many cases. But I think that will be something which will really set us apart, not only from our competitors, but also from other sports services worldwide.
Yeah, because sport is unique if you put it together with entertainment. Needs a special discovery and consumption if you want to experience. But even sport by sport, and I mean, the epitome of everything is the Olympics. No, there's nothing like the Olympics. If you want to do it, I would say properly, sorry, nobody gets offended, it's super sophisticated and complex, because so much happening at the same time. So I think that's a really great approach. I think it seems the direction where the exchange value with the consumer is not only built on, oh, we bought these rights, come to us, but it's kind of creating a loyalty to the product, not only to the content, which we know can be volatile depending on the rights are bought or sold. But all of that, in terms of, especially in terms of retention and the relationship with customer, there's a lot of data that you need to basically take the proper action, both in terms of maybe feature decision in terms of product, but also marketing this action towards who's churning, or how are you organized in terms of, I don't know, data platform, data pool? How important is that for you? Audience
it's very important. So I guess I run the analytics team as well, alongside technology and product. It's because of the way we launched, we're a very new service. And when I came in with the World Cup on the horizon and through last year, we spent a lot, and the team did a great job of manual time pulling different reports together, doing certain pieces of analysis around specific content or specific bases. Now, as we talked about at the beginning, when you have a single event like a World Cup or a single piece of content launching like an original, fine, that works. When you're having to change every few months to different leagues, different types of customer coming in different regions on different operations, you can't do it manually, right? So it's not something we're fully transitioned on yet, but we are doing two things. One, we are working increasingly with a smaller pool of service providers that offer a similar to exploiting everything your content library has. We've got a lot of people we are working with that offer a lot more than we were taking, and so we're trying to rationalize our vendors and let them take some of the heavy lifting around data integrity and so on, so that we can take out the internal resource, I guess our analytics team's time to move away from the heavy lifting around matching and mixing data and everything that goes along with that, and actually spend more time on the insights. So this is very much a work in progress. We've got, I think we're starting the year with some very clear objectives this year about how we get our data into a really sort of tight spot. We're then looking very quickly to transition that into real-time actionable insights that are feeding some of our performance marketing tools. I guess podcast would be complete without mentioning sort of AI as the but it is genuinely something that I think we are looking to exploit in some limited use cases about how we more quickly move from a piece of data to an action that's taken either publicly or internally, and hopefully more and more proactively, because in that sort of very choppy sort of churn, picking apart the different segments, targeting specific offers within those segments almost in real time and based on actions that are definitely happening in real time is going to be a real challenge, but I think it's something with a huge amount of opportunity, not just for us as an acquisition funnel, but in terms of getting the right offers in front of customers, the right languages in front of customers, the right content in front of customers, all of that.
And how is last question maybe, how is the payment part, the subscription part? I think it goes back in the category on one end of being something that has to work properly, easily understood. The experience should be created well. Frictionless is what everybody aims for. But especially with all the the diversity you have in the region, is it a crucial element? So are you already at a level where you have all the right payment in every right place? I mean, running global OTT services, I learned that there are payment services we have no idea they exist, and they are like a break or win factor for certain regions or countries.
So I think last year we made great progress. I think it's all been very, very public that we partnered with Kling and their services to help us through part of that journey. And I think on the direct-to-consumer portion of our business, we are getting much closer to where we want to be. We've still got some work, especially in that data piece we were just talking about how we make that available to the wider business and make sure that that we're actioning things that come in from that system. But a big part of our business, at least half, is B2B. Now, if we're moving outside of the GCC or the Gulf into North Africa, credit card is not a normal subscription method. Right? PayPal is unheard of. Apple Pay and Google Pay are not it. You're purchasing either through vouchers, which has a lot of challenges, especially around sort of piracy and fraud and things, or you're purchasing through your operator, your mobile payment, your carrier billing. So a lot of it's driven by that. Obviously, that does present some quite specific challenges around churn because often we don't have control of that.
Exactly.
So, on a credit card, we see someone's churning. Okay, 50% discount next month. As an example, we don't sort of throw that out.
I may remove this part.
But you can react in that way, right? If you wanted to, you could very quickly adapt those payments. Where we are a relatively kind of I guess in the master-slave relationship, the more passive party, we can maybe detect someone is a risk of churn. They've slowed down their consumption. Maybe they've had an issue streaming in Algeria or somewhere where internet's difficult. but we cannot do anything with the payment method. So how do we still address the challenges with that market? I don't think there's one answer to this, but it's still going to be a case of working very closely with partners. It's still going to be possibly through things that are in our control, such as maybe introducing people to a slightly improved experience for a time, or offering them pieces of content that are maybe not in their core package. I mean, we've got to work through these, but it may be we have to address sort of those challenges not in sort of a specific payment discount trial, because it's almost irrelevant for what could be 70% of our base.
No. So sophisticated, fascinated, and super exciting this year, it seems. From here, at least. I don't know.
No, it is. I think that we've come sort of straight back in after sort of New Year. AFC, AFCON, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of traction. We've got obviously Premier League running all the way through that. Then straight into sort of preparation for Olympics and Euros, and back into Premier League, Champions League, but it's never ends. But
va bene. So have a great 2024. Maybe it would be good to do a checkpoint after the Olympics to see if you're still alive and you don't look 10 years older.
After a sleep. But no, I'd be happy to. Great to speak with you as always, Carl.
Va bene. So thank you, James, and good luck with everything for Todd. Ciao.
Thank you.